I will be also talking about Roma minority. Romas in Czechia, who are they, how many are there? Officially there are just 40,000 of Romas in the Czech Republic. Non-officially there are around 300,000 of Romas. How is it possible? It's like really clear because when you are local in Czechia, you have just Czech nationality. And if you feel you are not Czech, but for example Moravian or Silesian or Roma, you have to go to the administrative office and make some short paperwork, and then you have another nationality. Very easy. But most of the Romas are not interested to have the Roma nationality, so that's why we don't have a really brief idea how many of Romas live in the Czechia or the Czech Republic. Unfortunately, the 50% of Roma population in Czechia lives in socially excluded localities. These socially excluded localities are located all over the Republic, all over the country, but especially there are more of them in border areas, like okay, I will show, like in this especially northern border area, because it's the area which was after Second World War depopulated because of expulsion of Germans. So 3 million of Germans have to leave this area, and some people or people from the another parts of Czechoslovakia were moved then there to resettle these regions, and some of them were also Roma. The interesting thing is that most of these Romas are not originally Czech Romas, because the story of Czech Romas it's the sad story of Roma Holocaust, because around 99% of Czech Romas were murdered during Second World War in concentration camps. So these Romas who are now living in the Czech Republic are originally Slovak Romas, because it was one country, so it was quite common that during the communist time there were some movement of people just because of some planning, and that's why the more of these socially excluded localities are in the border areas. Here we can see in the map how many people are living in these socially excluded localities. You can also see that most of them live in this Moravian Silesian region or Ústí region in the northern Bohemia. I will be talking about Liberec region, which is, here is it better visible, this part of northern Bohemia. Here is Liberec, the capital, where I am working in university. So this is one of the parts of the border area where it's not the locality or the region with the most socially excluded localities, but it's the region where there are many of them. There are many stereotypes about these socially excluded localities. Some of them are that people are very loud, the children are very aggressive, there is mess everywhere, and so on. Of course, there are some localities which looks like this, but common socially excluded locality is just some old house where poor people live. We don't have many ghettos with thousands of inhabitants. There are only very few of them, but typical socially excluded locality is several houses in some part of the city. And usually it's houses which are owned by municipalities, and municipalities put there these socially disadvantaged people. And majority of these socially excluded localities unfortunately are Romas. We make a study in last year, from 2018 to 2019. To be honest, this is just something like working paper because we don't have all results yet. But our goals were how the Roma people of these localities assess their life situation. It's the main point of the presentation, the subjectively perceived quality of life. And we were interested in comparison when we compare this subjectively perceived quality of life in Romas from socially excluded localities to Romas outside these excluded localities and the majority population. As a method, we used very simple questionnaires. To be honest, the questioning person was making notes by themselves and just ask very simple questions. And we also for obtain also some qualitative data, we make some narrative interviews, which were sometimes very interesting. In the core of our study were these 5 indicators. The core indicator is subjectively perceived quality of life. When we just ask how the people assess their life in the scale from 0 to 10. The scale was also graphically made in the paper to be able to show to people who are not every time very well educated, which is good and which is bad, and which number should they choose. This is one of the indicators. There are another 4, which usually are very very closely linked to the main indicator, to the quality of life, which is relationship with family, friends, and neighbors, satisfaction with the place where the people live, trust in people, and sense of security. In majority, or in the norm, I don't want to say normal, but in the majority population, there are very strong correlations within all these 5 indicators. The correlation coefficients are between 0.7 to 0.9, so it's very closely linked together, but not in Roma population, especially within the socially excluded Romas, because they sometimes are really critical to, for example, trust in people because they know somebody who is not trustworthy, or sense of security or satisfaction, or especially with satisfaction with place because they feel that the houses where they live are not very nice and the conditions are not very good. But, and that's somehow maybe surprising, they are happy. They are happy with their situation. Unfortunately, here it's not so visible, but these are classical box diagrams, and here are means. So the means are also mentioned under the diagram. So we can see that here we have 5 categories of people. First 2 are Romas. The first one are Romas in socially excluded localities. Second one are Romas which are living just normal life as a majority population. And we can see that socially excluded Romas are more happy with their life than not socially included Romas. And when we compare it with the majority population, we can see that it's nearly comparable to the most happy part of population, which is people with university degree or tertiary education, which is these are people who are quite rich and can have a lot of property and so on. So this is something which is a bit problem because we cannot say that the people in these socially excluded localities are living some great life. Yeah, it's definitely poor population, and they just use some kind of rules which allow them to live easy life. Because we have very good social system, and Romas somehow, maybe I will be a bit faster, have learned how to abuse it, which on the one hand is causing some tensions in society because the majority of people don't like this, but Romas are somehow happy with it. Unfortunately, it's also a trap which put Romas in these socially excluded localities in a trap of poverty. Because there is one very important condition, and it is that if they want to take as much money as they can, everybody in their family has to be poor. Yeah? If somebody has property like house or car or computer and so on, so they lose some part of these social benefits. And it's a really trap because we can see that not everybody in young generation wants to live this life in social excluded localities, which is on the one hand easy life, but on the other hand life in very bad conditions. So it also forces Roma to live in poverty like forever. And my proposal is that within Roma community there are many people who are able to manage the relations within community, and there are something like natural born leaders, some elders and so on. And I think the point is to really change the social system and give this money from the social system to some kind of non-territorial autonomy when this money should be better used for not only for some social reasons but also for education or making better the social pathological phenomena, because there are big problems like gambling and drugs in these communities. So, thank you for your attention.